This is another story that I like to read when I was working with children. It's called The Christmas Cookies. And at Christmas time, it's fun to make different kinds of cookies. And I bet you all are making cookies at your house. But this is this story has animals that are making cookies. And this is Grandma Raccoon, and she's making cookies, and it's called the Christmas Cookies. There's a wreath on the door, and there's stars and all kinds of things there, the cookie shapes. But they have a problem when they start to make the cookies. So we'll get to read about their cookies and what they do with their cookies once they solve their problem. The Christmas Cookies. This story is called The Christmas Cookies, and there's Grandma Raccoon. We're going to learn about what happens when they have a day of making Christmas cookies at her bakery. The Christmas Cookies. Grandma Raccoon had a bakery. All day long she baked good things to eat. She baked candies and cakes and pies. Around Christmas, Grandma Raccoon would bake Christmas cookies. She made the best Christmas cookies in all the town. There's some Christmas tree cookies right there. One day, Grandma Raccoon put up a sign in the window of her bakery. Help wanted. That means she needs some help inside. Everyone gathered around to read the sign on the window of the bakery. Look, said Ernie Squirrel, the sign says, Help wanted. Let's see if we can help Grandma Raccoon. They walked into the bakery. They saw Grandma Raccoon running around the kitchen. She was out of breath. Grandma Raccoon, said Kara Woodchuck, we came to help. Quickly, my friends, said Grandma Raccoon, put on your aprons. I need help making Christmas cookies. But first, Raccoon said, we must move the stove closer to the table. That way we won't have to run back and forth as much. So here they are putting on their aprons, and Grandma Raccoon is helping them get the oven and stove over against from the wall toward the table. So they pushed the stove. They puffed and panted. That stove was heavy. Finally, they pushed it next to the table. No time to waste, said Grandma Raccoon. It's time to make Christmas cookies. But do you see what happened when they pushed the stove away? Look what happened there. Soon they were all busy. Grandma Raccoon measured the flour and sugar. Ernie Squirrel cracked the eggs into the mixing bowl and poured the milk. Kara Woodchuck put sprinkles on the cookies that were already baked. We are going to give these cookies to some special people, said Grandma Raccoon. Who? Asked Ernie. Just as Grandma Raccoon was about to answer, someone walked into the bakery door. It's got antlers and big feet. Hello, Darnell, dear, said Grandma Raccoon. I saw your sign, said Darnell. May I help? Of course, said Grandma Raccoon with a smile. Oh, no, whispered Kara to Ernie. Darnell dear is so slow and clumsy. I know, Ernie whispered back. He will only get in our way. See him back there? They don't look very happy. But Grandma Raccoon does, doesn't she? Kara Woodchuck and Ernie Squirrel were right. Darnell dear stepped on everyone's toes. He could not mix the cookie dough because his feet were too big. He bumped into the table and knocked over the bag of flour, and it went all over the floor. What a mess. But you know who's smiling? Grandma Raccoon. I'm sorry, said Darnell. I guess I wasn't meant to make cookies. Oh, that's okay, said Grandma Raccoon. Wait, something is wrong. She opened up the stove. The cookies are not baking. The stove is broken. Let me look at the stove, said Darnell. Darnell looked inside the stove. He looked on top of the stove. He looked behind the stove. I found the problem, said Darnell. The stove is unplugged. We must have unplugged it when we moved the stove," said Grandma Raccoon. Everyone laughed. Grandma Raccoon plugged the stove into a closer outlet. "Now, friends," she said, "let's finish the cookies." The next day was Christmas. Grandma Raccoon and her friends took the Christmas cookies to the special people that Grandma talked about. Who were they? They were sick children in the hospital. Darnell carried the big sack of cookies while the others passed them out to the children. "Thanks for all your help, Darnell," said Grandma Raccoon. "You've made this a wonderful Christmas." The end. So Darnell got to help after all, and the other friends did too. It's good to share.